Hey folks, it's Reggie Lal here at Be the Smart Investor. Again, in the studio here, my good friend Gordon Moss. You're in for a treat. This is part 3 of a 3-part interview on the note business. Hey Gordon, welcome back.
Thanks, Reggie.
My question to you is, we've talked about different notes and different deals. How do you assess a deal? When it comes in, someone has a note, they're thinking about selling it to you or they want to sell it to you. How do you assess it? It's not like, you appraise a house. How do you go about looking at a note? Talk about that, please.
And it's a bit unique in our niche, which is the non-performing niche, because we're looking at a note that's not working right now. So we're looking at the collateral. The collateral at this point right now is across the board in America. I mean, there's so much bad debt out there. But we've focused on single-family houses. Okay. Nice single-family houses in good areas, because we don't need to buy anything else, frankly. There's so much inventory out there. So the collateral is important to us. The next piece is the borrower.
Okay.
The borrower, I know they've fallen down, but, are they still in the house? Number one, is it occupied?
Owner-occupied.
Owner-occupied. What kind of condition is the house in?
Sure.
Is the lawn manicured?
Pride of ownership.
Pride of ownership. Have you been there for 10 years? Do your kids go to school down the street? Things that a guy would want to stay in his home. So I can see there's a good chance that I've got a good chance of making this note a successful reperformer.
Got it. Great tips. Gordon, you mentioned earlier in a previous interview, I think in part 2, you're focusing on a very specific part of the note business. What are you working on right now, your niche right now?
Well, we purchase across the board, but lately we focused on non-performing seconds.
Okay, let's break that down a little bit again in case you missed it. The loan would be in the second position.
Yes.
And the borrower is not paying on it, and someone's sitting on it, probably the bank.
Yes.
No payments, but still a lien position that's recorded, correct?
Yes.
Non-performing, not paying, but in the second position.
Exactly.
Why are you focusing on?
We have found the ability to buy those at such a steep discount.
Okay.
For example, a first lien would cost, even in this market, 50, 60 cents for a non-performing first on a good property. Okay. The second would be 10 to 20, 25 cents for that same position. And you can get these with equity. So you would think, when I first heard this story, I was thinking, this is insane. I mean, a non-performing second, you're out of your mind. Right. But the more I looked at it and said, wait a minute here, what are the downsides to it? What are the problems? It made more sense to pay less than a non-performing first, in our opinion, for a non-performing second.
And I think a big part of that, it's a great niche, is people have that misnomer, misconception about seconds. They're afraid. If you're not the first, oh my God, you're going to get wiped out. Oh, it's terrible, don't do it. In reality, it's really the equity, not the loan position, that's more paramount.
That's exactly it, Reggie.
I mean, even a fifth, if there's $1 million equity, you're probably okay.
If there's enough equity, as you say.
You're probably okay. Great. Gordon, this sounds like a good niche. Do you think this is going to be ongoing? Lots of supply still?
Reggie, it's a good question. There was a story in the Wall Street Journal about 6 months ago, and it talked about that most of these bad seconds, in this opinion, in this instance, were originated in 06, 07, 08. I mean, anybody could get one in those days.
Right.
It's hard to get one now. So the things that we're buying are these 3 or 4 or 5-year-old loans, which we see being around for the next 2 years, maybe 3, and then this market shifting into a new market. So we see this niche as a 2-year market right now.
We've got a couple-year window to get into this. So get started. Learn more about it. We'll talk here in a minute about how to get started. Gordon, why do you like the note business? You've been in real estate. You've done commercial. You've done foreclosures. You've done REOs. You're definitely a real estate expert. Why do you like the note business right now?
It's a lot of fun, Reggie. It really is. Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, isn't that what this is all about, folks?
It is.
If you're not enjoying what you're doing, why do it, right?
If it was work, I wouldn't do it. I really wouldn't. And I'll tell you, I want to say this too. We really are helping people. These people have fallen down. We've all had issues in our life. The economy's not good right now. But guess what? You can really help them. You can be a human being, not a bank, and say, you know what, Reggie, you can afford this much, so let's give you this much. And they're like, people are just shocked that we can actually help them that way. So it's fun.
And face it, everybody wants a discount, a good deal.
Yeah.
The homeowner's no different. If you can reduce their payment in half, they're probably going to be pretty happy with you, right?
Exactly.
Gordon, real quick, we've talked about a bunch of stuff, some great ideas, some great examples. How does one get started in this fascinating little niche called note business?
Well, I always say this, it's education. And I know you're a big advocate yourself.
Absolutely.
And there's some great teachers out there, and I'm probably the biggest student on the block. And I try harder, and I spend the money. I do what it takes to find the right teachers. I go to Florida to find the right guys. we're all a fan of Pete Fortunato.
Yeah, as I name a couple of them, Uncle Pete, obviously, Pete Fortunato does a note class, a terrific class. Anything he does, you should go. Who else is in this niche?
Yeah. I'm a big fan of Eddie Speed. Eddie's done 30,000 deals in the last 30 years. I don't think there's anybody with more experience in the market right now that's currently active as Eddie. So that's, once again, I'm a big student. I really am.
In fact, I agree. He's kind of like the grandfather of the note business, him and a couple other guys. Eddie, actually, we're blessed here. San Diego Investment Club, Eddie Speed's coming out next week. He's our featured speaker, and then he's doing a whole-day workshop. Would that be worthwhile for somebody?
I will be there.
As I will. So there you go. Both of us think we kind of know this, but we're always willing to learn more. Hey, Gordon, it's great having you. Thanks so much for sharing some great tips. Appreciate your time, man.
Thanks for having me.